We are back in the saddle.
We are back in the studio. Today is November. It's the 30th, 2020. Welcome aboard Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 430.
It's a nice number, man.
Well, it's the only thing in this room that's in the 30s right now.
Besides outside.
I mean, yeah, it is in the 30s outside. It has gotten brisk. It was a beautiful Thanksgiving here in Chattanooga. Sunshiny, 60s. Friday was beautiful. Saturday was meh. Yesterday brought the rain. And today, winter has arrived. It is gloomy. It is gross. It is in the 30s. I think we're going to see lows in the 20s like this next week.
You are welcome. I
brought
that straight from Wisconsin.
You sure did. Straight back from the beautiful state of Wisconsin. But yeah, winter is here. I don't mind it. As you know, I used to hate winter. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it now, but I kind of fell in love with it a little bit when I lived in Kansas City whenever it was frigid. I do. I like the hoodie weather, I like the sweatpants. I mean, generally speaking, that's kind of what I rock anyway, but I love running in the winter. It's one of my favorite times of year to run. It's no such thing as too cold unless it's like 15 below, but it won't get that here. But yeah, that's it. We hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We casted last Friday, so we were a little bit late, but we come to you twice a week, always, traditionally, Mondays and Thursdays, but always twice. We've done so for the last 4 years. If it's your first time listening, we appreciate you tuning in. I know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe, and your time is valuable, so we thank you for that. We cover all things triathlon and all things life. Sometimes we'll go into specifics for swim, bike, and run training, triathlon-related philosophy, and how you should outline your training programs. We'll do race recaps. We'll do race previews. Sometimes, infrequently, we'll have on our own guests. And then sometimes we even hop into our closed group, which is on Facebook. You can search there, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question. We'll let you in. Oftentimes, we'll let the awesome members in there in the community drive our podcast with questions, and we'll get to those in as much of a timely manner as we can. But for the most part, Mike and I, as both coaches and athletes, not experts, not professionals, just experienced in life. You have a little bit more experience than me, like 20 years, but a lot more experience. A lot more life experience. But we share it.
A lot more to contemplate. Man.
Yeah, a lot more. That's all right, man. But that's what we do. We share our experiences with you, and hopefully you can take that or just find one little nugget throughout every podcast that we do and apply it to your own life, to your own training in a positive way, so you can have a happy and healthy endurance sports journey.
This morning, I just came back, of course, yesterday, and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to start this new routine out on the balcony in the mornings, barefoot, sort of yoga thing. And I walked out there today, and I'm like, whoa.
You're like, next Monday sounds like a great time.
Yeah, no, maybe later this afternoon. But I do want to start it because I like that cold weather stuff, too. It wakes you up. But
yeah, and if you come in here sick because you've been standing outside half naked in the wintertime, then we're going to have another conversation.
It makes you strong in your immune system if you know how to handle it. But I put this, I think I put it in our Friday, put that graphic in when I post the podcast. And I do want to say thanks to everybody who's stuck around. It's been a tough year, and I'm sure that it can be a little tricky trying to get motivated about triathlon when a lot of them are getting canceled and everything like that. But, we've had, it seems like people are sticking around and listening to the podcast, and hopefully it's helping you motivate a little bit and keep on track and things like that. And I think that goes, sort of unnoticed sometimes. But we do appreciate you guys listening, and the numbers have been steady or going up all year, which has been quite amazing, really. And not in like a Joe Rogan sort of bump way.
Yeah, we are.
He did a podcast the other day, posted on YouTube. It was like 6 hours. He had like 6 million views.
Yeah, I can't handle that.
I can't even imagine.
I can't handle that kind of pressure,
man.
No, that's it. Well said, and thanks for bringing it up. But yeah, we generally do. We thank you. We appreciate you. We've been very fortunate enough to have met quite a few of you as well, and at races the last few years, obviously not this year, but we've met quite a few of you. We hear from you via emails or comments on Facebook or messages, and it really does. This year's been hard. It's been probably the hardest year ever I've ever had coaching in a lot of ways, but I know that having athletes to work with and coach has been a huge blessing for me personally in my own athletic and life journey. And then also doing this podcast, even though it presented many challenges under lockdown and quarantine and doing it at home and, you know, hating school's closed and then, you know, opening a hut is like, it's definitely presented a challenge, but I very thankful to have these 2 hours a week to where we can spend, you and I, just chatting. And then obviously being able to, you know, put that out into the universe and have, you know, 7 or 8 of you really soak it in and enjoy it. But no, we do. We thank you and we appreciate you, your kind words. And just the fact that you listen does mean a lot to us, and has been definitely a huge positive force in what has been, you know, sometimes a negative year.
So how you doing, man?
I did a lot of nothing last week.
Following your orders.
Following orders, as I kind of said in my personal update in my weekly email this week. And it's been lengthy, you know, as I said a couple weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, maybe. That's triathlon. Like you feel like something was like a month and a half ago, and you look at it, I was like, that was really like not even 2 weeks ago. It was actually just a couple like days ago. And I was gearing up and super excited and was in a really good spot in training, and was getting ready to race Texas 70.3, actually en route to race Texas 70.3. And then turned around and it got canceled. I did my own kind of self-supported race here at the hub which is fitting, in isolation, which has been pretty much the word of the year. And then didn't do anything Saturday or Sunday, ate freely, did whatever I wanted to, and then got up Monday, came in, worked, did one swim, and then I think like 3 days later hopped on the bike, and I was actually like, I thought I was back, because we talk about this a lot. Like, you think you're physically, mentally, emotionally back from like an event. You're like, I'm still feeling pretty good. I want to keep this train rolling. I want to keep the dominoes falling in a positive direction, and I want to lose this momentum. And I hopped on the bike and I was riding, and I could immediately tell that I just didn't have it. And I was like, hey, it doesn't matter if I have it or not. I actually was working and kind of multitasking on the iPad, and I was just kind of doing my own deal. And I'd been on there for like an hour and 10, and I actually had Zwift set up on the side just to kind of see how things were going. And at one moment I looked over, and I didn't feel well. Like, I didn't feel like I wasn't sick. I felt off, and I was just like, you know, I'm just going to take it super easy, and I don't care. It wasn't spectacular anyway, or didn't need to be, nor did I want it to be. And I looked over, and my little Zwift character is like parked on the side of the road. and I guess the Watt bike had stopped like transmitting my power, so it just like pulls you over. And I have no idea how long he'd been sitting there. And I was like, how fitting. And you know what? That's exactly what I should do. So I was like, you know what? I got off the bike, and I was like, that's pretty much exactly how I feel. I feel like I just pull over. So I got off and then didn't do anything. The rest of the week, we had some friends come in town for Thanksgiving. I didn't do anything. I ate whatever I want. I ate whatever I want. I slept, you know, as much as I can usually sleep, which is, you know, getting up at 5 o'clock like always. I didn't do anything. I had lots of pecan pie, had lots of chess pie, had some turkey, had leftovers. I just did a whole lot of nothing, and I absolutely loved it and appreciated it. And at no moment in that week did I feel like, oh my God, I'm losing fitness. Oh my God, I've got, you know, races in April next year. I was like, you know what? I freaking needed this, because, and I mentioned this briefly, I think, in the email this morning, and I think a lot of us go through this with races, is that I told you this when I got done with the race, and I was like, I felt good. Like, I was sore, but I wasn't smashed. And I think that obviously had a lot to do with just the nature of the race itself. Was indoors. It wasn't on concrete, whatever. And there wasn't extensive travel, which there would have been a lot of travel. It was a home, it's a home court advantage kind of thing. Like, you just sleep in your own bed, do your own thing. I think that obviously it really does aid in recovery. And but
Did you have any cardboard cutout fans watching?
I didn't have any cardboard cutout fans. I had no fans, except for the fan in front of me on the treadmill. But I think as the days kind of got on and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday passed to the following week, I think I underestimated the mental and emotional toll that it had taken to do the event just by yourself. And especially, I think, the treadmill run itself. I think not only did I dig myself, not only did I go really deep, but I think mentally and emotionally, it was also an important day for me. So I think I had more, I was invested more emotionally, because November 20th is a big day for me. So I think I was more emotionally invested for a lot of reasons. And I think I was more mentally taxed by I think not just the day and the event itself, but also like the lead up getting to it. I'd been about as focused and dialed in as I've probably ever been. leading up to a race. And
I'd agree with that.
And I think that as you spoke to in one of our other podcasts, that you had been basically just standing there and watching me for the last 3 months, which is slightly uncomfortable. But
just keep an eye on it.
But I was dialed in. My diet had been better than ever. I was as fit, I think, about as ever been. And so I think that just kind of like came to, one big dead end at the race. And it's definitely not any kind of, post-race depression. I think it was just mentally and emotionally, I was exhausted. And I think I poured it all into that one day. I emptied my cup that I'd been filling all year. And so this last week, I just kind of did whatever. And then this morning, I got my juices flowing again. I'm going to be flexible this month, which I think is what we're going to talk about today. And just been actually just pumped this morning. Like, as a coach and...
Pumped?
Well, I don't get pumped a lot.
Which
athlete's going to know. I guess my version of pumped, which is like internally saying, all right, like that's my version. That's my version of
like
pumped.
Half pumped.
But like for like all of our athletes for Thanksgiving the day after is like I just gave them choice days. Like do whatever you want to, hang out with your family, do whatever. If you want to do a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, or just do whatever. Just have fun. And so many of our athletes just went out there and ripped it, and it made me feel good. Not just that they were able to get out there and do things and show their fitness and persevere through the year and still have something to show for it, but so many of our athletes had just really awesome results. And I'm usually very hesitant to give myself a pat on the back as a coach. It's not something I do very well, nor do I ever do it really publicly. But I was proud this morning. It's been a hell of a year, and you, as a coach especially, like you don't get to see all of your athletes perform on the stage that they want to, and to see them really improve when push comes to shove, because we don't do workouts like that. They don't hit the track. They don't wear themselves out every week. And so sometimes you don't question yourself as a coach if you're doing things right, but when you have so much time in between events or races or people having raced at all, like there are many athletes that I am going into our second year working with who have like never raced at all with me. They've just trained. And
Really?
So like, if they've done like 5Ks, 10Ks, we've done things. So like that alone, like you kind of like, I know I'm in the right direction. And then so this morning, it just felt like some good affirmation. I just kind of felt proud. I was proud of myself this morning.
Oh, good, man. And I think there's something to be said for all this. It's like, we put so much stock on a race result, right? Even coaches, I think sometimes you can kind of be like, okay, how did that look? And, you take it personally. It's hard not to, right? Because you sort of think about what you've been doing and building up and how they go into a race, and then you watch them race and you're like, okay. So you decide, was I successful? And they decide, was I successful? And the answer is probably yes most of the time. It's just hard to gauge it if there's no race. But I think ultimately the thing is that, and that's why I asked you, so how you doing? How you feeling? Because that's a success story, but it's so subjective. And I think, as you outlined your week of, down week maybe compared to what I've been watching from you, but I had a similar down week, probably even downer, but I did. I don't know. There's something about connecting with family and friends and stuff like that, and that was sort of a lot of at the crux of what you had outlined for how to tackle December, or however you worded that. The 10 ways to approach December. And I think that the reason I like that, I really like, sometimes I can tell that you're obviously thinking all the time, and you put that together. And I think December is always one of those weird months that I was actually grateful to see it. And then especially, I saw drink coffee and take more naps, and, like,
this is right up my,
like,
this is Mike Terrelli's 12
really
rules for all 12 months.
My wisdom. He's right on it now. No, but like, and sometimes like these weeks, and again, for me, I mentioned it Friday, I think, but it was sort of one of these weeks where it just really concreted the idea that I want to get it going. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need that too, right? It's sort of like, and I think honestly, if I'm going to be total honest, we both have grown up like with addictive personalities, and sometimes you just need to like, it's sort of like proving it to yourself and burning it out, right? It's like you go back, it's like I got to go back to the well right here and prove that I really don't, and it's such a long learning process, You know what I mean? Like
Always
how many
learning.
times we've done stupid stuff because we think we want to, and we keep going into it and we keep going into it. And then eventually you're just like, what am I doing? And I think that's the best way to learn something and the best way to move on or whatever. Instead of like, you know, the old willpower kind of technique. A lot of times it's like, nope, I'm going to start my diet Monday. And you don't even really, I mean, you know why, but it hasn't really set into your soul, so to speak. And I think that, you know, it's an ongoing process, but I think the more reminders that you get, that the more or the easier it is to sort of move back in the right direction. And I think this year has just been a crazy one on many levels, and especially mentally, because it's like, oh, it's such an easy thing now to write. I've got an excuse to be lazy or to who cares? You know, what's it matter? And while I think there's some value in that, I think a lot of us have learned that, you know, maybe like in a slow 8 to 10 month process, it's maybe like we're starting to really learn what is important, you know? And again, I think it always comes back to, you know, I've said this since day one, is like every time I train, I just want to feel the best that I have all year on race day going into it, you know? And I think that just feeling good is really, again, it's a subjective concept, but that to me is it.
Most athletes, not most, a lot of athletes find themselves not truly, I think, understanding or feeling what it is like to feel good. And again, like that's why I think this month is so important. And I kind of outlined, I did outline like kind of the 12 rules of December for our athletes in my email. We'll go through some of those today, but some of them are you might think they're funny or fun. They should be all fun, but they all have a purpose. And I think the most important skill an athlete can have is not anything athletic. It is to know their self and to know what they need and to make those decisions with confidence and with no, second thought of, I wonder if this is okay to do, or I wonder if coach is going to be mad, or everything you do should be something positive for yourself. So empowering your athletes, and we mentioned this a little bit in the last few podcasts, but empowering your athletes to help them be the ultimate decision maker in what they do. Like coaches shouldn't be your ultimate decision maker. They should help guide you in a direction and empower you to make the best decisions for yourself while walking with you or next to you or in front of you if they need to be, but guiding you in that direction. You might think, oh, well then what's a coach for? I'm like, well, a lot of times you can't do these things by yourself. You need at least to know someone is watching, or that's watching your back, or that has your back, I guess is the best way to put it, or that supports you in that way. And that's why I think this month for so many athletes is important, not just given the training year that we've had with a lot of athletes are probably trained themselves into the ground this year. We're like, I'm just going to keep training. I'm going to crush 2021. And you think, oh, well, time off. I don't need time off. I'm going to keep doing it. And like, your body needs to rest and to recover in order to be able to absorb you can't just ramp up, every single week incrementally and expect to be better. You have to have down weeks, and you also have to have down periods of time. And December is a great time to do that with the holidays, with the weather, with races being so far away. And so I really wanted our athletes to really soak that in, and not as in like, it's not a month to be lazy. It's a month to recharge, and I think there's a very different way of looking at it. Like if you want to look at this month like it's gonna be lazy, then you're gonna fall behind, not just physically but also emotionally, mentally, because you're not going to engage yourselves in ways that can propel you forward mentally and emotionally. Because while a lot of athletes love structure and the rigidness of having to adhere to a plan because they feel like it's something they can control. Like life is nothing we can control, as we've seen. And athletes need to be flexible. That it's a skill you need to have, especially if you want to end up racing well, because races are just like life. You can have a plan and then you get punched in the mouth and you have to change it. And the athletes who can deviate from that plan the best are the ones that are going to succeed the most often and ultimately reach their full potential. And so it's an important skill to have. Yes, it's funny because most athletes think that people need coaches to get them off the couch and to get them moving, to be, rah, super motivated and like, get out, you got it today, man. Get off your ass and go run on that treadmill 10 o'clock at night. No. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, a coach's responsibility is to actually hold the athlete back, because if you don't, they will do too much all the time, never stop, never take a rest day, run through an injury, bike when they shouldn't, skip out on sleep, miss out on family events. Like, your job for the most part is to tell them no. Like, that is it. It's to tell them no. I had to do this last weekend. Had an athlete be like, hey, I think I'm going to run a half marathon on Thursday. You okay with that? And I was like, yeah, go for it. Like, don't be stupid. Just be smart. So he went out and it had a hell of a day. Then he emails me, and I shouldn't even check this email, but I'm glad I did. I have terrible boundaries. And he emails me like, hey, coach, I had a great half marathon on Thursday. Thinking about doing another one tomorrow. Good idea, bad idea. And so in true Coach Robbie form, I emailed him a very long response of no, period. And that was it. No, send. And so that's the thing. It's like, you have to tell them no. You want to give them flexibility and to feel them, because you want the athletes to be just as much in charge of their journey as you. And so I did. I sent out this email, which basically the December rules. And number one, which everyone should know already, which you have been a fan of since the day we met, and I should call it the Mike Terrali rule, and that is naps are good. Naps are good. The naps are never really bad, but naps are good. And yes, they are. Naps are great. Like, if you talk to like any high level athlete, professional athlete, they are not just professional athletes or elite athletes. They are elite and professional nappers. Like, they can find 20 minutes, 30 minutes to sneak in a nap. And especially like with how, virtual and remote most jobs and schools, and even, kids will be out of school and offline here in the next coming weeks with the holidays. Like, it's never been a better time to be a napper. And this is like, I am a horrid napper. I am terrible at it. I will lay down and be like, you know what? I think I'm going to take a nap. And then I lay there for 5 minutes, and as you said before, I can't stop thinking. Like, I think a lot, and then I get mad that I'm thinking, and then I'm like, well, if you're just going to lay here, why don't you get up and do something? And then I'm like, why am I just laying here? So I get up, I'm like, well, that's stupid. Why am I just laying here? Get up and do something with your life. And so I get up and do it. And I'm trying to do better. I'm going to try to do a better job this month of doing it, and just kind of, even if I can't nap, just simply closing your eyes for a certain period of time is, I think, actually refreshing. But that's it. You should nap as much as possible this month, because sleep is king. Like, no one gets extra points for getting 5 hours of sleep when they could have got 8, because they're going to work harder or do whatever, or get an extra session. Like, you have to have sleep, and you want to be able to start off, your year, look at this as your preseason, right? It's like, you shouldn't be hitting it full on. Like, December should be your preseason. You should be getting your body and your mind and your soul really ready to have an incredible year, which is going to still produce challenges like every year does. But naps and, to another extent, sleep is king, and naps are good.
Yeah. You know how I know naps work?
50-something years of experience.
Yes, a lot of experience of naps. But I have to admit that I'm the worst at picking the right time to nap sometimes. So, like, I get a little too close to when I should be sleeping, so I don't recommend that. But like last night, I was tired after 2 days of traveling, long drive, and I was exhausted. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to bed at 8 o'clock and really knock this down and get in a good pattern here. Because I was tired. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm going to go to sleep. I fell asleep probably 5 minutes, and then I was wide awake. So, it's like
the worst thing ever.
Yeah. So, I'm up late, of course, again. But I don't know. Sometimes I think I just got to let that whole thing go instead of trying to force myself to be a morning person, go to bed early and whatever. And either that or, it's almost like you got to get through 1 or 2 days of those full days without a nap, and then you can get in that groove where you actually feel tired enough to sleep at 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Time is just stupid anyway.
I know.
Like, I did that yesterday. I was hungry at 10:30, and I was like, I don't usually eat lunch till 11. I was like, what do you mean? Like, dude, if you're hungry, freaking eat lunch. And I was like, all right, left. I was like, time is such a weird. We had these like 9 o'clock.
We always confuse that with discipline. I don't know, man. Anyway, I get so confused.
Yeah, well, we could go off on a whole other tangent on time.
Let go and just do what you need to do. I mean, I on the big scope of the universe and all that sort of thing, it's like when it's darker longer. I mean, I think that was like implemented as a hibernation cue. You know what I mean? Like, it gets dark at 4 now or 4:30. Well, I don't know here. It's maybe a little later here because we're on that timeline. But I think that's the point, that this is preseason, and I think that nature has intended for us to sleep a little bit more at this time of year because that's why it's dark longer. I mean, you can't argue, rules of the universe.
No, or bears.
Or bears, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and listen, it's like it's colder, it gets darker. I mean,
how
like
do they sleep so long?
I don't know, but they're champions. Be a bear this December.
They must work hard.
The second one I had is which is I think probably the opposite of what you would think a coach would say, but it says if you want to do your session, by all means do your session. This is number 2. If sleeping in and having an extra cup of coffee sounds better that day, then do that. As a coach, I'm not naive to the fact that there are probably a lot of days where athletes wake up and their first thought is, I really just want to sleep in. I would really, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's just how it goes because not every session you wake up and be like, I'm going to crush it today. Like, this is my day. Some days life is going to beat you on. You're just going to think, I really don't want to do this today, but I'm doing it. Like, I'm committed to the process. I'm committed to this race. I'm committed to the training. I'm committed to being disciplined enough to know when it's being lazy or I'm just generally tired. But so you make sometimes, 50, 60, for some athletes, maybe hundreds of those small decisions every year until at some point, and I've had athletes communicate this to me before, is they're like, I wanted to rebel today, so I just didn't do it, because you feel so much like this feeling and thought to, I can't think of the word I'm trying to articulate here.
Obligation.
Yeah, yes. You feel this obligation to not your coach, but to the race and to the discipline itself to do it. And you're like, I signed up for it, I'm going to do it. Like, I committed to this process, I'm going to do it. But it's just like a job. Like, if you wake up that many days and you find yourself just going in to do it and you don't love it, you don't crave it, you don't want it, you don't get fulfilled from it, then you're going to hate it and you're going to leave. And so what I mean by that is, like, this month the thing is great. Like, if you want to do your session, then by all means do it. Like, it's encouraged. But also, on the same other hand, if you feel like you just want to sleep in and take that liberty and freedom, to kind of re-empower yourself to know what's right and be okay with it and know that it's okay, then sleep in. Don't hit snooze. Just turn your alarm off, as long as you get up for work. Have an extra cup of coffee, sit on the couch, read a book, hang out with your kids more before you have to. Like, those are the things that energize you, because, and some athletes might think, oh, well, so-and-so down the road is doing their bike workout, they're getting ahead. Well, nothing great can be obtained without sustainability, right? And so you have to look at things and how you can accomplish things over the long haul. And this is kind of like hedging your bet against, not even a bet, of putting yourself in the most successful position possible for not just a great year, but to learn about yourself and who you are and what you need, and to, again, empower yourself to make those decisions. Like, I don't want athletes to be like, they have to ask permission. I want them to know inherently what they should do, and they can't do that without going through and making their own decisions, to be like that. Same thing goes at racing. Like, you can have a plan or a pace or a power, but what if you feel better, right? It's like the best athletes in the world, they race by feel. Like, they're like, I've got it or I don't. Like, you have to know yourself. And so in order to race like that, what do you have to do? You have to train like that, right? So it's just a great exercise. And to be honest, it's been, if you've trained consistently throughout the year, like, you've had that, and you've had that. And even athletes that haven't had a super consistent year in a ton of racing, they've still had that in the background noise or expectation, or feeling like they're letting themselves down, or the training plan or their coach down by not doing a session. To have that freedom sometimes actually unlocks their desire and allows them to find their why of, okay, well, without this race or this training or this expectation or session I have to do, like, is now the time where I kind of feel like I have the freedom to figure out what I do want to do. And if you can find that out, then the next steps become easy, because it's something that you want to do. And so I think that's a great rule for anyone to have this December, is to, if you want to do it, absolutely do it. But whatever you do, just enjoy it and want to do it. And if that means sleeping in, then freaking sleep in.
I don't know if everybody feels like this, but since I just drove from Wisconsin down here, and of course the analogies that we always like to present, and I think about how you're driving, and when you have a full tank of gas, there's just something a little bit more secure about that, right? And then, like, when it gets down below the quarter line, it gets kind of sort of towards empty. I mean, I think psychologically you feel that, don't you? I mean, you're always 100%. Like, man, I better get some gas. I mean, if you use that like as a philosophy for life too, you wake up and you're below a quarter, maybe you should recharge it or fuel up a little bit before you get into that cycle of always waking up below a quarter tank. I mean, that's sort of how I think about, I know the athletes that get up early, they're on a different regiment than me, and they're probably eating a better dinner, and they're going to bed at a better hour, and they're getting recharged, and they can do that. But a lot of times I try to wake up early, and I know for sure that I'm working on reserve fuel, man, and it's not a good feeling. So instead of like, always burning that like towards the empty, why not let you, because I've been thinking about this as I get older and stuff like that, of literally thinking about scheduling more off days in my training plan and having an option, right? More so than forcing myself to skip a workout instead of like, I feel pretty good today. I'm supposed to be off, but maybe I'll go for some run or whatever. And look at it like that rather than working from a deficit, kind of try to work from a fuller tank all the time, and just because, for me, it's like, I've always talked about this, but man, it's like, I don't necessarily lean with, getting all the miles in and all that kind of stuff. I just like listen to myself and be like, okay, I feel strong. That was a good workout. I know next week or whatever, I should be able to improve that and things like that. I don't look at it as I don't judge myself day to day based on, like I need to go further to prove that I can actually go further and things like that. I think of it in terms of, how did I feel? Did I have more left? Did I kind of stop when I was ahead? That's a big thing for me, is always like aim low or, err on the side of caution, that kind of stuff. And I think this month is a perfect month to really work on that sort of like mentality.
It's a great month to work on self, right? It's like in order to, and I think what you said is a great point, like looking back on like what kind of habits you have when you determine if workouts are good or bad. It's like, and what they're supposed to actually mean, which isn't to run your tank to empty, right? So you have to stop and pull over. It's like it should always be like, honestly, for a lot of sessions, you should actually end up with a tank that's fuller, right? In terms of like, 30, 35 minute runs, like, oh, they're meaningless. Oh, they're going to, no, they're actually supposed to make you feel better, right? You should feel that you've enhanced your ability to have energy and to feel fresh and to clear your mind and to gain fitness all at the same time. So your tank should be maybe not looking at it as I'm actually filling my tank with gas, but you're making your tank bigger, right? And so that's also a huge, like the goal in terms of like using, fitness and to expand your ability to, use your engine. That's what sessions are, is like your ability to increase the size of your tank.
That's
right?
I had an athlete reference that is this 30-minute run was exactly what my heart needed today.
Right. Yeah. And that's like a perfect segue to like number 3. And number 3 on the list was walks and hikes are great, or dog walks. And if you don't have a dog, well, go get one. Everybody needs a dog. Okay. Everyone needs a dog. If you have a cat, well, then, put them in your backpack and walk with them.
In the front, so they can lick your.
Exactly. Or, take a litter box with you. But no, like that, like walks and hikes are so incredibly energizing, to get outside. And that's why I love this time of year too, because I think there's something about the cold that helps bring you to life. Like it helps make you feel more alive. Like you feel more, you can see your breath. And I think just getting out and doing those things, like 10 minutes, 15, 20, 30, an hour, whatever it is. Like an athlete that was looking through their past week, like she went on like a 5.5 hour, she lives in Canada, like a 5.5 hour hike. I was like, yeah, that was probably, tiring, right? Exhausting and to an extent, but also insanely energizing, right? To cover ground and to do things. And I do think, and obviously I'm a dog lover, like I do think there's something inherently positive and energetic about just simply walking your dog, because it feels like you're doing something for someone else, which you are. You're doing it for your dog, but like how incredibly happy they are. And it feels like you're getting the best of both worlds, and that you're doing something for you and someone else all at the same time, which is like the best thing. Like that's what you want to do. And so walks, hikes, like, people underestimate hikes. Like, that's lazy. I'm going to get out and, bust them. Like, no, if you really want to hike and you choose a terrain that is hikeable, it is not easy. And it can also be as hard as you want to. Put one of your old school Jansport backpacks on and throw like 9 books in there that you had when you were in 7th grade. And then tell me how easy said hike is, right?
It's books from 7th grade.
No. Yeah, hoarders. People like, I'm going to use this one day. Like, no, you're not. Just take it out of your attic. Do that. It's because it's a way to be active, yet not feel, again, like you're having to maintain some level of concrete structure to what you're doing. Like you're still being fit. And we've referenced this in many podcasts. Like I think we would be surprised, just because we tend to surround ourselves with other athletes that are doing the same things that we're doing in triathletes and endurance sports, people who are in endurance sports, but I think you'd be shocked at how many people would be absolutely waxed by doing a 1 hour brisk walk, right? The majority of Americans can't do a 1 hour brisk walk without feeling absolutely smoked. Like that's just the nature of how things are these days. So it is good. And I think that is it is, people tell that's an endurance event in of itself. It's just taking long walks. If you don't think so, go to Disney, and tell me how much of an endurance event is when you have to walk all day long for like 10 hours. Like,
or go spectate an Ironman.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're absolutely wiped. And so
it's slow cooking, man. I've been thinking about, because I got a couple of my mom's recipes from, I'm going to get back. She makes the best
You're going to get back to what?
Let's
see. Getting back to something is referring to you used to be there. So did you used to be a big
eating
soup
a lot
guy?
of things that she used to make for me, because I always go home and I always enjoy it. The
Home
simple
goods.
little things, her tuna salads and things and her soups. And so I last night spent some time making that stuff because she gave me the recipes for the tuna salad.
Good old Ann.
But I was thinking about the soup part of it, and you always hear people talking about cooking and how the best meals that people talk about always are those ones that take forever, the slow cooked, and of course the turkey and that kind of stuff. And I think that's the same with the body, right? It's like when hiking to me is a slow cook, it's sort of like a good workout, but it's not pushing yourself completely, and depending on what you're doing. But like for the most part, when we had the trail camp here, I was out and I wasn't running at the time, but I was hiking a lot, man. I felt great. Even though my foot was jacked up a little bit, but I really felt good after those hikes, And I think that there's something to be said for really kind of pushing your body, but not pushing your heart too hard. And it's just sort of like letting your body kind of adjust to it's the strength, kind of controlled strength workouts and things like that take a little time, but they really pay off. And it really, that was the weekend that got me back into running. So there must have been something to it.
Get outside. Do something,
The sun is energizing, man.
It 100%.
This whole thing has forced us to stay inside, and it's all, I get so mad about that. Oh, we got to stay in and to stay away from everything, but you got to get outside and get that sun, man. I mean, it's literally electricity for the body.
It's good for you, mind, body, and soul.
That's why I think when it gets to the season, when we're training in the summer and the sun's out more, that we can do that because we get that extra burst from the sun.
Vitamin D.
And now that's what we're talking about, hibernation, right? It's you got to kind of adjust to that play.
And that's why I see so many people in general, not just athletes, but struggle with seasonal depression. Like there's a reason, right? It's the way it is. Number 4.
Moving on.
And this is probably just a number 4 for most of our crew, because I think a lot of athletes take way more than days off than this in general. But ours was number 4 is you are required to take at least 6 days off of training in the month of December. Which I'm sure some people are like, wait a minute, that's not enough. And I said, don't argue with me on that. Do it. Days off are from swimming, cycling, and running. You can ski, play tennis, go for a hike. Days off do not have to mean laying on the couch all day. They can just mean a day off from anything triathlon related. We don't normally take days off pretty much ever. So I think it's important this month to do, and I think there will be plenty of athletes, and I've already heard from quite a few of them. They're like, I can't do that. I can't take. Well, yeah. First of all, yes, you can. It is an exercise in restraint, something that we should all exercise and be able to do, and also understanding that a day off is actually not bad, and that you're not going to lose fitness. A lot of athletes just crave it, but the biggest thing is just to kind of disassociate yourself from this sport that many of us become obsessed with. Right? Everything has to be swim, bike, run. Like, I was reading an awesome comment in the train. It's like, yeah, I think I'm just sore from the mega pickup basketball game we played on Thanksgiving. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I was like, that's the kind of stuff that you should be doing right now. I was like, be active, use the good work that you've earned through training for a triathlon to do something different, whether it's going out and cross country skiing or playing a pickup game of basketball or taking a long walk or a hike or doing some playing tennis, like whatever it is. Like, just do that. Like, take your mind. You don't have to take your mind to a lazy place and hop on the couch and watch Netflix if you don't want to. Go and play tennis. Go and do something different. Go do that's completely removed from the obsessive nature that can be endurance sports, but also swimming, cycling, runs. Like, triathlete. I can't do this because I'm training for an event. Like, I hate it when I hear athletes be like, my friends invite me to this, but I can't because I'm training for a race. I'm like, okay, well, you're just guessing that you're going to get injured. This is going to be like free your mind, right? To do something different and enjoy yourself. So again, it doesn't have to mean a total day off. it can be, do whatever. I have a rule for myself this month that if the number of the week ends with an odd number, I have to take 1 day off. And if the number at the end of the week ends with an even number, then I have to take 2 days off for the week, for the month of December. I'll accumulate definitely more than 6 days, but I mean, given like Christmas, even Christmas, boom, there's 2. You're already a third of the way there, but it's that time off. And again, like, I know that's not some earth shattering hardcore one for a lot of people, because I think most people take generally 1 day off a week, no matter what. We generally don't. And that's why I think it's important, energize yourself, relax, and also kind of come to the conclusion that, because the reason I don't like scheduling days off is because we usually are going to take one anyway if we need one. Like, you need to, because just the guessing that you're an athlete, or that your athlete's going to need a Monday off, is just kind of like throwing darts at a board. Like, you're just guessing they're going to do. And some days they may wake up kind of like you were referring to back in our previous one. It's like, what if I wake up and feel good? Like, I want to go do something. Day off, and the next day you wake up and you're smoked from work, and you're like, I feel like trash today. Like, would it have been better to get out and get after it on the day before? Absolutely, right? And so I don't ever schedule days off for the most part, because I know athletes are probably going to end up using them anyway. So if I schedule you for a Monday day off and then Thursday happens, you're like, oh my God, I can't work out today. Well, boom, there's 2, right? And so you end up losing a lot of days. And frankly, to be honest, if you're loaded and programmed correctly, you shouldn't need a day off per week anyway. But yeah, days off, take them, like, enjoy them, schedule them if you want to, which I think is something that we should all do, because I think seeing it on your calendar is something to do, or just, take the power, like, what, I'm not doing anything today. I'm going to own my day and not do a daggum thing.
Yeah. I think of it as rounding myself off days, because, a lot of us get into this sport, I think, because they feel like their life has become, unmanageable a little bit, or they're kind of losing track of whatever. But at that time, I'll just use me for example. I was really into film and art and music and making music and playing music and photography, whatever it may be. And then I got into triathlon, and then you know what I was about? Triathlon. And then I just was going straight down a road, and I forgot I let go of maybe who I was. And I think it's important to remember who you are and the things that you're interested in, whether, it could be anything, cooking or crafts or painting or whatever the case may be. But these off days, if we sort of look at them in terms of like, hey, let's like kind of round our personality out a little bit and get into different things and use this energy that we're building through training and the stamina and the fitness and all that sort of stuff to be, frankly, more interesting. Just to like think of it as a conversation. It's like if you're a statistician and that's all you think about, and you go out to have dinner with somebody and that's like the limit of your conversation, man. You wonder why you don't have a lot of friends. You know what I'm saying? But I think we talk about that a lot. It's like, no, none of my friends want to talk about triathlon. Well,
no, they don't.
Bend your mind and let's like go somewhere else. And I think that I guess what I'm getting at is we get so rigid, man, with the triathlon stuff. And I mean, come on, it's December, and if you're not racing until November, your big race or whatever, create some versatility and things like that. And I struggle with it too. That's why I can bash myself, because we do triathlon all the time, for the most part, but I think we enjoy kind of venturing off the rails and exploring different thought processes and things like that.
Yeah, ergo the podcast.
So you can feel this podcast just wanting to go somewhere else.
We're trying to keep turn our hands on 10 and 2 and keep it straight. But no, you're right. Like we live and breathe triathlon. We train for it. Our job is it. We have a podcast about it. But that is, I think, one of my favorite things about the camps that we have is that, like, in between sessions, like, no one really talks about triathlon. They just like life and what's going on. What kind of job do you do? And like you really get to learn about people and how fascinating everyone really is when you learn about, and you actually want to talk to them about things that matter, like not their smart trainer or how many watts they push or what race they're doing in June, but like, I don't know, who you are as a human and what you've gone through in life. And like, people are fascinating if you take the time to talk to them and listen to them. Like, people are absolutely awesome to talk to if you choose. I mean, like, no one wants to talk to a triathlete because most of us our delivery is terrible about anything triathlon related, because we only ask you what races you're doing because we want to tell you the races that we're doing. Like, so what you racing next year? Oh, I think, yeah, well, me too, man. I'm going to race like in June. I got my A race in July. Like, I care. Well, your question wasn't about me. It was about you. I get that. Which it's true, right? You're like,
I know.
So
man,
it's like, yeah. So what you A race this year? That's gonna be like the New Year's Eve. Like,
I raced that.
Yeah, I did that back in 2005, man. And like, I'm telling you, it was 110 that day. It was 110. You're like, dude, let me pull up 100 grounds. It's like, actually, it's been. Let me tell you, yeah. It was actually 73 that day there, Jeff. No, but that's what triathlete, especially this time of year. You have your end of year like club parties, and you're like, all right, dude, what's your A race next year? It's your Lake Placid. That's my A race. Really? Is it? Yeah, but I'm also doing, Coeur d'Alene and Wisconsin and Florida. I'm going to do them all, man. I'm doing them all next year. I'm getting my Kona Legacy slot. And you wonder why people don't like talking to us, which may or may not make number 5 on my list that much harder, which number 5 was go out to coffee, tea, or grab a beer with someone you haven't talked to in forever. Connect with at least one person you haven't in a while and have missed. That goes for even non-people who aren't racing. Go talk to somebody. You ventured this direction in the beginning of the podcast, and it's something that, we were joking about when we got home. We're like, I wonder if people are gonna like hate us for the last 2 podcasts, because we spent the first 3 years, 400, just under 400 podcasts, like doing them all like in a separate room, and like that was our normal. And then the last 2 podcasts, I've been here in Chattanooga, you were in Wisconsin, and it was weird. Like, I felt off. I didn't have the same energy. I didn't have the same, I think, tone of my voice. I felt kind of just like, I didn't like it. And one thing I'm very thankful of is that you and I, for the last 4 years, have been able to spend 2 hours, whether it's been via Skype or on the phone, like talking, which generally people don't do anymore. Like, you don't have the time, and luckily it's part of what we do as our career and our job. But people don't have that, right? And so, like in this year, I think Zoom. I think actually, in some ways, this year has helped because it's forced people to understand the lack they have, or the missing piece in their life. They're just connecting and communicating with people in a meaningful fashion, which is Zoom or FaceTime or things like that, where you can see people's face and things, and connecting with people is so valuable. It's invaluable. It's just connecting with people, being around energizing and positive people. And just we talk about, doing a 30-minute run just when my heart needed, or having runs energize you, or bikes or swims, and that makes you feel better. Like, I've never felt meh on a day and then gone out to grab a cup of coffee with somebody and talk for an hour and felt bad. When I usually feel, oftentimes I won't have worked out yet. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to work out today. Take a day off, then you have a cup of coffee or grab lunch with somebody, you talk for like an hour, then you're like, dude, I'm ready to go. Find me up something to do, because you feel energized and ready to go. And the time of year is great. The year has been rough, and in order to, and if you can't, you don't have anybody you can talk to, you can Zoom us. We'll hop in and we'll Zoom you for a cup of coffee or something. But connect with somebody and feel that, and listen and talk to them and hear their story and share yours. And I think that's a piece that we have missed immensely this year, is sharing and being vulnerable and open about our lives, and not just communicating, the facade that is a lot of our Facebook posts, which is how great our life is, when really, like, all we would really care to do is sit down and have an hour conversation with somebody that, will listen to our story.
Can I tell you what I hate about things right now?
Boy. Here we go.
No, but this is a big one for me, because, you're right. It's like, you can do so many things right now that are quote unquote connected or whatever, and you post your pictures and you get 100 likes and stuff like that. And what you realize over time is that usually there's maybe like 5 people or 10 people, and that you're really connected to, and that you're looking at people that you're like quote unquote friends with on Facebook. I'm like, who is this? There's so many people like that nowadays. And then this thing that really bothers me the most, I think, is that, like, there's so many gurus out there that are always trying to tell you how to build your business and whatever it may be. And like, I feel like everything sort of has an agenda now. Like, it's like, yeah, ask somebody to lunch every day. That'll be a great networking platform or whatever, and stuff like that, where it's like, can we just not have agendas now, and just other than just to connect with somebody? And that is the biggest truth, man, because, like, you know who your friend, as you get older and you see this kind of stuff unfold, it's like, man, I could build a huge audience and whatever. And that's what I really do love about our podcast, because we've been on the same page with that. I just feel like the agenda isn't there. I mean, we just, our agenda is like, we've been having conversations for 8 years like this, and it's sort of an opportunity for us to be in front of each other, or at least connect with each other in some way, and just have that conversation. That's it. There's like, we don't, plan things out in order to like, topple the world or anything like that. We're just kind of hanging out and talking. And I think people seem to identify with that. And I think that's what we need more of, is just people kind of hanging out without having to prove something to somebody, because it's always like, man, I should go out to hang out with him. And then it's like, oh man, but I haven't been keeping up with this. I don't have anything important to say, or whatever it may be. But just, it's sort of like going to a class reunion now. You get so nervous.
For what?
Well,
you're not even friends with them anymore.
Yeah, I know, but like a lot of the early friendships, I think in some regard have like this deep connection, because you went through so much more. You're in school every day together. And for me, it's like with college, you live with these people and you have this great connection. But anyway, when you're setting up to go to a class reunion, I know most people are kind of nervous about it, because like, oh, I haven't seen them in 10 years, and what are they going to think of me or whatever. Then you get there and everybody's just in the same boat. They're all kind of just cool, and there's no like, look at me, look at my car, and that kind of stuff. I'm sure that happens, but for the most part, it seems like nobody cares anymore. It's just like, it's good to see you. It's nice to see you, Robbie.
Hey, thanks. Nice to see you.
We're just sitting here. It was nice to see you. It's been over 10 days or something like that. I'm sure it drives, people crazy that we rarely ever have an organized, plotted out podcast or so what are you gonna, what are your projections and quarterly goals for this year? I'm like, I don't know, help more people, however we can do that. Like, you said it once. What can we do today to help?
Yeah, like what can we do to help somebody else, like better athletes? Like that's generally that's really is how simplistic it can be. And I think that's I think we'd love to overcomplicate things because it gives us more to think about. Because a lot of times, like the easiest answer is the same, or to stick to it. And I think there's so many things that you get value from just talking to someone, especially someone you really love talking to. Like, it's the most energizing thing you can do for everything about you. It's like, and I think you miss that. And I think having, those connections is the most valuable piece that I know I get from coaching, or they're the connections. And I mentioned this morning in the email. It's like, I have, especially for a guy like me who came from, a very, when I drank, I was an isolator. Yeah, I saw a couple people here and there, but me, I was like, I was an isolated alcoholic. Like, I would just be alone, be depressed. And so when I think about how enriched and how positive, how wonderful my life is now, to have so many really amazing people that I have been able to come into contact with and work with and meet and become, just really, special friends with, I feel incredibly blessed. I feel incredibly blessed. I feel incredibly blessed to have that. I got turkey on the mind still. I just feel very grateful to have that, to have these people in my life. And I think everyone needs more positive people. I think the things that we've gotten to value that are the standards of being rich or wealthy or well off or accomplished in life have become so disproportionate to the things that really provide you value, which is friendships and happiness and connections. And do you want to be able to put food on the table and provide for yourself? Absolutely. But the things that you get from, how you fill your own cup is never really with money. It's with people and with, providing, I'm very fortunate, we both are, to do what we do, and I love it. And it's the best thing that's come from this podcast or the Facebook group or coaching has been the people. It hasn't been anything else, but, connecting, becoming such great friends, so many amazing people across the planet, not just from down the street. And so, find that time and connect with people. And I think you'll be rewarded fully, from it.
Yeah. And to your point, the best parts are the camps, when people actually come here or to the run camp or wherever we're going, and we're hanging out and meeting people. And, it's not always about like I just think we have this impression, right, that going to a triathlon camp or a swim camp or whatever it may be, it's like, how much, it's like, how much better are we going to be at triathlon after 3 days? And yes, I think what happens is people get confidence and they go back to their, game plan with that, and then that becomes better. It's not always about, learning a million techniques or whatever the case may be. It's like we got this thing about like learning's important. Don't get me wrong, but like, when I think of these, poor kids, frankly, that have to go to school on Zoom every day or whatever it is, it's like, it's not just about like regurgitating facts and things like that. It's about interacting and building friendships. And, my sister, she's a teacher in kindergarten, and she says, man, it's so difficult because her job is to teach kids to share and interact with each other. And she's got a room full of kids that are separated, and they're kindergartners and they can't talk. And it's just like, there's so much more to life than digesting facts. And I mean, every bit of information you ever want is out there. Yeah. Could you go to college, over the computer and, learn certain things? Sure. But to me, it's all about that connection piece and building friendships and feeling a sense of trust in people and the ability to just, be yourself and go out there and build these things for life, and feel good about yourself. And I think that's sort of what rounds this whole thing out, is that, it's about having the energy to do that, because like if you're doing triathlon and that's all you have the energy for, that makes, spinning off and doing other things even that much harder, almost a burden at times. So that's why I think that your list is so great, because... And
it makes the loss of triathlon immense, right? If you get injured or as people are finding, like the inability to race has what has made this year so hard for people, is because the triathlon has become the only thing that matters to them. And when it's been taken away via races, then they find themselves lost or mad or frustrated or not really knowing what to do, or how to find happiness. There's just so much you should do as an athlete, especially as coaches, to help your athletes, not just as triathletes or endurance people in endurance sports, but as humans, on this planet. It's like that's your number one goal, is like, to hopefully, bestow on them a more positivity in other areas of their life that aren't just in the pool or on their bike or, out on the pavement, when they run. It's life, and that's the greatest journey that's the greatest endurance journey we're going to be on, is this journey of life. And it is hard. It is 100% an endurance event. It is not a sprint. And there's so many great takeaways from training and this sport that you can utilize, in life in a positive way. And so we only made it through 5 of the 12, but maybe we'll post the other ones in the online hub for our club athletes and other online hub access members to have. But we'll get to those at some point. But yeah, it's a great month. Take care of yourself. Look out for yourself. Do things that are positive. I'm also aware that it's not technically December yet. But yeah, pretend like it is. Listen to this a day late and fluff up our Tuesday downloads. But yeah, take care of yourself. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, go to Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com. He'll be out on his balcony naked doing yoga. If you have any questions or comments for me, c26coach@gmail.com. Or if you would like more info on all the things we do in our coaching, our camps, and our community, as well as our club membership for 2021, you can go to our website, which is c26triathlon.com.
Yeah, and I'll be heading up that club program, so go check it out at the website. Go to the coaching tab, and drop down to the club. You can read about it. If you got any questions, email me, crushingiron@gmail.com. Once again, my friend, it has been...
it's been great. Yeah,
it's been a great time.
This was the best podcast ever.
See you, dude. All right, man. See you.